Hey everybody, welcome back to Visual Novel Book Club. I'm your pal Slow Beef. With me, of course, my good friend Devious Vacuum.
Hello, everyone.
My good friend Oren Ronan.
Hi, everyone.
My good friend Jim.
Hey everybody.
My good friend Turbo C.
Hello?
My good friend Polohoko.
Hey, yeah.
And you know, when I have to do that on Zoom, I can never do it. I always miss somebody. But whatever. Here it works out really well. What are we talking about, though? We're talking about werewolves. We're talking about all sorts of wacky stuff.
It really happened this time.
And the first feast is over Zoom.
Yes. Oh, man.
A lot easier to do voting over Zoom, but a lot harder to execute someone.
Yeah, you just have to trust them to do it themselves.
Oh, what's that? You said you're the snake? I'm sorry, that I'm breaking up.
Hang the old man. We already did.
The old man couldn't figure out how to get the Zoom meeting to work.
Yeah. Yeah, when you get executed in this version, you just get kicked off the call.
Right.
So, when we last left our heroes, Hauraki basically was like, okay, I think that I'm losing it. I think he's losing it. He and Haru decided to become villains, to fully come into the role of being villains, to be the wolves and to try to win as the wolves. And it's a real dark time for Hauraki and also Haru.
I kind of liked this, though. I wasn't here for the last session, but I liked just this like expression of freedom from that in that way, that they weren't bound to.
I mean, the entire thing is for Haru's sake, because he sees that she knows that what she's doing is good, but she can't really justify it to herself. So he says, let it all go. You're a villain. You're bad. That makes you free. Which is it's an interesting concept.
I like that kind of, development, but I kind of don't like that they kind of use that as a crutch for us falling in love with her.
I've read this chapter originally a couple of weeks ago, and yesterday I rewatched it in English. I think that what's going on here is that he's not really falling in love with her. I mean, he's trying to resist it all the way. It's more like a big brother, little sister relationship. She's definitely falling in love with him.
Yeah, I think that's what makes it, makes it come across that way, because she definitely has a crush on him, regardless of how he views her. Yeah,
I feel like if there's anyone who he's in love with, it's like the god inside of her.
Definitely.
Yeah, the badger.
And she's like the typical teenager struggling with like questions like, well, what's real love? I mean...
What's this god inside me?
Yeah.
Now, there's this section where she says that her relationship with Yasunaga, and she says that, she liked him and she wanted to try to kiss him, but she didn't think it was real love, because that should be more special feeling. And he's like very realistic and says that like maybe some people get that, but most people don't.
Yeah.
Yeah, and she's like, oh.
And then she mentions the Teen Vogue article she read listening to your inner evil god.
So our session begins with the next day after they've killed Yasunaga.
They failed to kill Yasunaga.
Failed to kill Yasunaga. You're right. You failed to kill Yasunaga. And the next day they have the feast right away. Hauraki is still pretending to be the snake, and he says that Haru is human. Mm-hmm. And let's see, they discussed the spider revealing themselves, which would mean it would increase the chances that a wolf would die, but the humans would think that they have the majority. Oh, right, like their strategy, because he lied about Haru being human and he's the snake, and he lies about him being the snake, and so if the spider revealed themselves, then it would make the humans think they would have a majority.
Do you all know who the spider was, by the way? Because it's not actually stated explicitly at any point in the chapter. Mm-hmm. But did you all figure it out?
Actually, I don't think I did.
Wasn't it Ty?
Did they already talk about it? Didn't he already kind of imply it at this point?
He has his suspicions, but they never actually confirm any of that.
I guess so. I don't know. I feel like it was more obvious than that.
I know because it's in the book that I'm reading, and it's in the Revelations mode at the end of the game.
Well, you're cheating then. You can't ask us, well, who do you think it is?
Well, you can ask. It's fine. I don't think if he says no, you're an idiot, then yeah, it's different. But no, I had no idea who the spider was this time.
I feel like I had a guess, but I didn't write it down, so I didn't.
I mean, I assume the spider had died when, well, we can get to that later. There's a point at which I'm like, oh, the spider must have died.
Well, they didn't die at that point because they protected Yasunaga this night.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, let's focus on what goes on in let's go in order of things. So Yasunaga, who's still alive, has each unconfirmed human say why they shouldn't be hanged and who else they think is human. And Yudai, Hashimoto, the photographer, is Haraki's rival, is like, someone else should also be in charge. We shouldn't make Yasunaga do this by himself because he's young. And he says, Haraki, you also help. And he's like, must be trying to set me up. But he runs the voting, and Yudai votes for him, for Haraki. But he's the only one who does. And he's like, I still don't trust you, but I can't prove anything yet.
Like, there's a guy on our server that is just like Yudai, I swear. Like, leading the conversations and setting these kind of traps where it was a trap. He had a suspicion of Haraki. So he gave Haraki, an outsider, a position of power, and knew that if he made any mistakes, he would be torn apart for it.
Mm-hmm.
I just love Yudai because it feels like he's just, I'm very suspicious of you and I don't have any reasons other than a gut feeling, so I'm just gonna do that. And he keeps just being like, well, rationally you should be the leader, but I still hate you.
So they vote to execute Tai.
Tai really she really brought it on herself this time, because she was kind of aggressive to everyone except the older guys.
And like all the senior people are being killed off. Like it's all the people on the left side of the screen are just slowly going away. And so things are starting to collapse. Like everybody heads back to the dining hall and people go off on their own. People aren't like following the rules anymore. Let's see. So people have to go off on their own. Kaori asks Haraki to go check on the kids who left. Like the kids went off on their own. The teens, I should say.
Teens.
And Haraki goes to talk to Haru, who is in her room. And when she opens the door, she's wearing like a traditional robe type garment. For some reason, she's like, this is what I wear when I'm by myself. What of it?
It's like a traditional Japanese houseware that you really don't see in modern times, and Araki comments on it. Like, this is something from like 50 years ago that no one wears now.
Yeah. Which it might be because she thinks it's cool, or it might be because it's a hand-me-down because they don't get new clothes, right?
No, it's a hand-me-down because they don't have money, they're poor.
Yeah. So they're talking, and Mochi is there. All of a sudden, he's hanging off the railing on the second floor, and he also seems to. When he talks to Haraki, Mochi also sort of seems to, he has intuited again, like what's the truth is, but he can't prove it because that's not how Mochi works, right? He knows the answer, but he doesn't know the line of reasoning that brought him to that answer.
He also doesn't care much.
Yeah, he seems like very chaotic in that regard of just like, let's just see where this goes.
Yeah, he's got like Cassandra syndrome. Like, no one's going to believe him no matter what he says. So he'll know the answer and no one's going to believe him.
He knows he's Cassandra syndrome too.
Exactly. And he just doesn't care about it. He's just abandoned. Like, oh, well, yeah. I mean, I could tell everybody, but I'm not going to because no one's going to believe me. And who gives a shit anyway? Let's see what happens.
No, that's the thing. Usually Cassandra, it's like a tragedy, isn't it? Because Cassandra can't convince. It's like Mochi's actually one step ahead. Just like, fuck it. I'm not living that life.
Yeah.
It's kind of a Nosato thing because, Kinosuke has had good ideas but is an asshole about them, and so nobody listens to him either.
Right.
So then it's night falls, and we have a choice to decide who to kill, but it doesn't matter because Kaori has already touched a door. It's Yasunaga's.
Yeah.
And Haruaki is like, I've got to ask you, are you ready to die tomorrow? Because you can't, I don't think you can do this without trying to kill your other son.
Let's just be honest, you're really bad at this game.
And Haruaki asks Haru and Kaori specifically to kill him, which it continues this like theme of like wanting like this like underlying feeling of like, I want them to suffer. Like I want people to suffer. So like the people who would be hurt the most by killing him versus Haruaki doing it. And Kaori loses it, obviously, and is like ready to die tomorrow. And it's at this point I was like, what is even going to happen tomorrow? Like this is going to be it, right? Like how is this even going to work? She's going to totally lose it. But as they're heading back, Haruaki reminds Haru again how being evil means that you're outside the limits of what you used to have. I think this is really interesting in the line, like you guys were talking about earlier, in the lines of the theme, one of the themes of this game, which is the idea of like this idea of like this quote unquote God, this like what is right, and traditions like holding people hostage in terms of what they do and what they believe, and that in this case, being evil represents just being outside of that belief structure, which is interesting. That like it's not necessarily evil in general; it's evil specifically to this group. And it's an interesting idea there. They're totally losing their minds, though.
It's like evil means being free from the rules of society. I think that's what he's saying.
Wouldn't Mochi be evil under this like definition?
Yeah, but he's not on our team. That's the next route.
At some point here, we learned that Mochi killed a lot of small animals when he was young, so...
That's how he got disinherited. That's crazy.
Yikes. Huh.
That's a big yikes-a-roo.
Yeah. Let's see. Oh, and then Haru asks Haruaki, what were you before you came here? And he says, oh, it's a secret. We won't tell her any more information about his past, what was going on in his life before he came here. But he promises that if they survive this, then he will help her however he can. Like even if they have to like flee Japan, he'll help her. He's not going to abandon her.
Again, showing a lot of foresight on Haruaki, being like, oh yeah, we will be convicted murderers if we get through this.
Yeah. And this is when they have that conversation that we talked about earlier, where like he talks to Haru about how not all love feels like this like big romantic thing, and like that's okay. That's how adults. That's what it is to be an adult. Like it's okay. It's normal.
Lesson 1: how to be evil. Lesson 2: love.
Great, excellent.
Great.
And so then the badger comes out, sort of, but I like it's like, is this a badger? Is this Haru? And it's like, oh, will you kiss me? And he says, no, that's fucked up.
Haru asks him if we kiss her, and then the badger
Haru
comes
asks
out.
him, and then right.
They just switch like all around. So in the way this is written, in Japanese, it's very, very clear just by reading the line who's speaking. Because Japanese, it's very easy to write in a way that like every character, every voice has a very specific speech pattern. And in English, it's a little more difficult. So they try to do it, but they don't always succeed. Some lines are just very natural in English. And the only way you can know is if you listen to the voiceover, if it has that effect on it or not.
So the badger also asks Haruaki if he wants to sleep with her, and he slaps her to like switch her back to being Haru, like this is fucking Danganronpa 1, and
slap a god.
Yeah, and she comes back, and he says, "Look, don't just let her do what she wants. Like don't let her take over." And Haru's just like, "Thank you for teaching me about evil. Thanks."
Step 1, evil. Step 2, love. Step 3, mental health against your possession.
And then Haruki's like, "Oh no, she's becoming my type of girl. Ew."
Some of these things are, it's when it gets weird here.
Yeah, I like gave the game credit because he's like normal games would just be like, most visual novels would be like, yep, okay, we're going on this route. And he's just like, no, I'm not going to do this.
Yeah.
And then he, of course, is back into it.
He's such a weirdo.
He also never gives the proper reason why he shouldn't do this.
Yeah.
He just kind of vaguely hints at it. He's never like, she's a teenager and I'm 24.
It's a lot. A lot of visual novels, a lot of media in general is like this, where it doesn't say the reason, as if we have to keep it open so that the people out there who think that a 24-year-old and a 16-year-old can date won't be offended. And it's like, why? What? Who? What? Yeah, you should be offended if you believe that.
Yeah, some writer decides that they need to keep that fantasy alive for some unknown reason.
Yeah, I don't. It's gross.
It's the whole argument of like, oh, but it won't sell to those people and that could impact their bottom line, which is like,
Why? What? Why do you think your audience is full of perverts? Like, I don't know.
Perverts spend a lot of money, is what I hear. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah. The only thing I think is you can't discount the fact that like a lot of teenagers might be playing the game who would like be in the age range to actually date Haru, but like the protagonist is older because it's cooler to like the 17-year-old playing this game if the protagonist is older.
Sure, right.
Like, I really like how Haru is written in this chapter. Like, it does really fit like with the, you know, sort of getting to know yourself, not really understanding love, blah blah blah. But Haraki, on the other hand,
what a jerk.
I mean, he's been telling us this whole time that he's a bad guy. So
I have the feeling if he actually did make a move on Haru, like Yudai would come out and set him straight, is how I think. And he would be like, ooh, he's right, and that makes me hate him more. You know? And he'd make that sound too. Ooh. Anyway, sorry.
Yosemite Sam-ass.
So the next day, the day turns, and they find out that Yasunaga was the one that was murdered. When Yoshitsugu learns that it was Yasunaga, he also goes berserk. He loses it, and he's like, I don't remember if he has a weapon or if he's just like freaking out. And Yudai is like, hold on, like he's like facing this tragedy head on is like the manly thing to do. So you have to hold it together and like be a man to do this. And he's like, oh, okay.
Big justice energy.
Yeah, and he does have a weapon because Haruaki's like, wow, he even approached that guy who was holding a weapon and he talked him down. He's so cool. Yeah. I hate him.
So they start the feast right away because everybody's so upset. I feel like one of the big mistakes they make in this game is like starting the feast before everyone has like had a chance to eat in the morning and stuff like that. And like, you know, that's you're not thinking your best.
All right, tensions are high. Let's decide who to kill rationally.
Yeah.
And like, you get to me at like, 11 o'clock, and I haven't eaten breakfast yet. I'm going to be like, yeah, just kill anybody. I don't care.
Yeah,
we're just killing somebody right now. I got to get something in my stomach.
Hang somebody. I've got a roast in the oven.
Yeah, it is. Mako has it too. She's just like, let's vote. Just go. I want to eat.
Yeah, it's fine.
So part of the whole thing where Haraki asked Kaori, is she willing to die? It's because during this feast, Haraki says, as the snake, that Kaori is a wolf. And this, of course, bolsters his position. And she said she was willing to sacrifice herself. And Kaori's act in response to this is just to start accusing everyone. She accuses Haru. She accuses everyone who talks to her. Like, was it you? Was it you? Must have been you. And Yudai... This is really interesting because it doesn't entirely work because Yudai is still like, I still think Haraki is a wolf, and he almost like I don't think Kaori is really a wolf. I think Haraki is lying, and he's not lying.
He got that wrong, but he got pretty much everything else right. I mean, his reasoning was very good, and he convinced everyone too. I mean,
the problem with that is that's what brings him down. It's that he doesn't realize that a wolf would sacrifice another wolf, and doesn't even account for the position, which means when what happens, he's completely undermined.
Well, he almost got away with it, but at the last moment, Kaori saved the day by revealing she was a wolf, basically.
Yeah. And not revealing too much, just enough.
And Yudai makes it look like, I mean, he puts everyone in the line of reasoning that would have ended with killing Mako. And then as soon as they're like, it looks like they're all going to vote for Mako, then Kaori is like, well, but now I won't be able to die if she dies. And then she like lunges for Yoshitsugu and she snaps. And Yudai tackles her, just like immediately it just like crushes her to the ground. And Haruaki is like, oh my God, like, do you do sumo? And he says, I play American football. I was like, holy shit.
Also, can I say I love Yudai's like position here as the like expert player of werewolf is miraculously getting everything right, and then he's like, I think the child is a mass murderer.
Yeah. And well, just that not necessarily because they at this point they're like, we know that she's the badger and this would like reduce the number, and it was a numbers thing. And Haruaki, like his counter argument was also like a numbers game.
Yeah. He comes up with this great argument of why, at the root of everything, we should kill a very small girl.
I think what would actually happen wasn't that Mako was going to be killed, because what he wants them to do is first vote on whether to kill Mako or to kill either Haruaki or Kaori. But they didn't even get to that vote. But I think what would happen was that they would choose not to kill Mako, and then they would choose to kill Haruaki, according to the numbers.
Wait, I thought that Kaori makes the assumption that they're gonna kill Mako. She's like,
no, I think Kaori realized that Haruaki was going to get killed.
Oh, okay.
So by being tackled, she like her bones, some of her bones are broken.
Yeah.
And she can't walk by herself, which is pretty fucked.
It's American football for you.
Yeah.
He's also a mountain of a man who just took her down from like across the room.
This lady would never be a defensive lineman.
And so, of course, they vote to kill her, which I think is ultimately like not a good move, right? They have a confirmed wolf, but they could have just like kept her tied up. But again, they don't know that. They don't know how it works.
That's why when Yudai busts in, I think we should cut off all their limbs.
And then Haruaki's like, shit, he thinks that
and then
too.
they do
He's
it.
so good.
Yeah, they do it for him because they trust him more.
He actually convinces them.
Well, he gives a very logical, sound argument to do it, and everyone's like, yeah, okay, that sounds right.
Yeah.
Haruaki's just like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
And just like throwing his hands up. Just
I don't get no respect.
Oh.
So they hang Kaori, and right before she dies, she's like, oh! She dies. She looks directly at Haruaki as if to be like, keep your promise, or you're going to kill Yoshitsugu.
But nobody notices this like significant look that she gives him. Because like, why would she do that if he's not a wolf?
And after that, because Kaori was the person who was cooking for everyone, Yudai volunteers to cook for everyone. But he's not that good of a cook. He just makes some basic like boiled vegetables. And Haruaki's like, ha, he's not perfect. He can't cook really well.
got him. But he's still cooking better than me.
Stands up pointing at him, goes, see everyone?
And then Haruaki, he was going to ask Mochi about something, but he doesn't get a chance because Yudai insists on walking him home. He's like, you're important, so I'm going to make sure that you're okay, or whatever. So he doesn't get a chance to talk to anyone in private because of Yudai. So then that night, of course, they finally get to kill Yudai. Of course, they're not going to kill Yoshitsugu, because Yoshitsugu, as the crow, will verify that Kaori was in fact a wolf.
Mm.
And so they kill him, and they talk more about like how they're not going to be able to like return to normal life after all of this is over because they are murderers. And Haru asks him to kiss her again, and he says like, as long as she doesn't show up, referring to the badger, and then the badger shows up. So he's like, no, I'm not going to kiss you. So they kill. So this is interesting because he kills Yudai this time, and we did kill Yudai in a bad route. And when we did that, he actually like went and like found the like camera and destroyed it. But in this, there is no such thing happens. So the next morning, when they all find out that Yudai was the one who was killed, Mamiya, the reporter, she immediately goes to the corner of the room, finds the hidden camera, and looks at it. And so Haru and Haruaki are in the room, and Haruaki's like, "Oh fuck, is that it? Like, is this over? Is this going to be over?" And Haru has actually has a knife. She's like fucking ready, and Haruaki's like, "No, don't go crazy yet. Don't lose it and start killing people, and just yet." And the camera didn't pick up anything. It just shows the body. It didn't film the part where they actually killed him, and he's like, was it erased? Like, what is it magic?
Yeah, it's weird because the time code is the right time code for them to be there, but it just shows the body from the very beginning.
Yeah, that's the first, not the first, but this is another clear example of, oh no, it's supernatural. You can't break the rules. Like, these rules are in place and you can't break them by doing this. Like, you can't just, get around the whole trial procedure and stuff. You got to do it the right way, or you're not going to have any evidence, or you're not going to get technology to work for you.
I mean, you say that, but I feel like the wolves cheat constantly in the other routes,
I mean, they do, but they get punished for it.
Yeah. You can always kill somebody. It doesn't mean you're going to win.
Right, yeah. Well, all right. I just mean the whole point is that you survive it, and then they're just like, screw it. You're dead. We're going to die too. Haha. It's like sore losers is what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
That's why I like Yudai. Anyway.
Well, so
that's a shame for me.
They go to the feast, and Yoshitsuka reveals that yes, Kaori was in fact a wolf. So at this point, everybody finally trusts Haruaki, I guess. And now with that power, Haruaki accuses Nosato of being a wolf.
Now there's really no one to stand in his way. Like, everyone remaining is like...
Yeah, now that Yudai is not going to be like, well, actually, that's completely wrong, and you're the wolf. Here's why.
I feel like even if Yudai was there, he wouldn't have any good reason to say why Nosato... Like, why they shouldn't do it, though.
Mamiya still suspects Haruaki, though. Very much.
Yeah. Based on what Yudai had told her.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So despite him accusing Nosato and having this new, this authority, they still can't come to a consensus on who to hang. And now everybody's getting hungry and tired. And finally Mochi is like, oh, all it takes for this to be over is for me to vote for my uncle who I hate. Cool, no problem. I vote for him.
Now we get some history about the Nosato family.
Yeah, so then Nosato says that Mochi is acting just like their ancestor, and he talks about this ancestor who I didn't write down how many greats it was back, but
two back. I think it's around the time of World War II. That's what is implied here.
And he's like the mentality. He says the mentality of the Nosato, the Crow family, is to gain knowledge, even if it means stealing or preying on the dead, or taking information from the dead. And he says that this ancestor, this ancestor that was similar to Mochi in how his brain worked was a war profiteer. And
that fits Mochi, honestly.
And he says he spent his final days locked up in the mansion torturing animals.
He said that he was a genius. He was one of the smartest men alive, but he was also very much crazy. And almost brought ruin to the family.
That dude could play a game of werewolf, but killing chipmunks, whatever. No Yudai, that guy.
Yeah. No, he's also saying that the family traditionally dealt with herbs, but as modern technology advanced and medicine went a different way, they still survived because of their creed, their mentality, they call it. Because they just knew that they had to keep learning and change from tradition. Mm-hmm. So they're men of science.
Yeah, and they've changed with the times, which seems odd, considering everything else that's going on. So they vote for Nosato, And Mochi's like, I want to be the one that pushes him off the cliff. And then Rikako is like, I want to be the one that pushes him off the cliff. And then finally he's like, I'm just going to jump off myself. And he jumps off. And then after he's dead, on the way out, Mamiya finally remembers, like, we were going to look for that gun, Chiemi's gun, and we never did. So let's go look for the gun. And they go do that. And even the wolves don't know where the gun went. They expect to find the gun in the wolves, where the wolves are, where they live. But not even the wolves know what happened to the gun. So the men that are left clean up the body, Hashimoto's body, and the women leave in a group to start searching people's rooms. And Haru is too embarrassed to go into a man's room, so they start by searching the women's rooms. And when Haruaki finishes helping with the cleanup, he finds all of them in Haru's room, and they are holding the flashlights that Haruaki gave to Haru. And they're like, why would she have this? And Haruaki doesn't even have a chance to explain. Yoshitsugu immediately punches him, and they tie him up.
And just beats the living snot out of him.
Yeah, beat him up real bad and tie him up in the prefab and leave him
he
there.
can't even talk.
He just loses consciousness and wakes up in the middle of the night when the wolf time comes.
And he's been untied when he wakes up.
Mm-hmm.
The magic of the wolves has untied him.
Yeah, so it turns out cutting off the limbs was the right idea.
Yeah, no, he was completely correct. Yeah.
Yeah, fortunately, nobody tried to use that on him.
Right.
Yeah.
God, would have been a much darker story.
I mean, I think he would bleed to death. Before the night was over. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Nosato was also right in that it's a very dumb thing to do.
Right. You will bleed out or die of shock, right? But...
And also, they just killed the only doctor, so I don't think you're going to be able to keep somebody alive.
Or know that, actually. So yeah, Haruaki is very lucky that no one else thought of it.
Yeah. So he thinks that they won at this point, because if they kill just one more person, then they have a tie because of Meiko. And that's it, basically.
Right.
And Haru shows up. He assumes that they also beat up Haru real bad, and but then suddenly the Badger is there in the room with him, and she's like, no, if there was any doubt that this was a real entity at this point, the Badger is definitely a real entity, because she has the ability to heal Haru and also heal Haruaki.
She doesn't heal Haruaki until later, though. No, she at this point Haruaki can barely walk, and he keeps she just dragging him along. After they kill someone, then she heals him with a kiss.
Yeah. Yes.
How cute.
Gross. But they need to kill Yoshitsugu because he would have confirmed that Nosato was human, so they kill him. And
This also shows the spider's dead. Because the move for the spider here is absolutely to protect Yoshitsugu, to know for absolute certain that if Haruaki was lying.
Right.
Haruaki says I appreciate that the Badger God is still there and accepts him for who he is and knows about his looping and stuff like that. And Haruaki's like, this is all going to be over tomorrow. And the Badger says, do you truly believe the great Lord Shinai would let you escape? And she's like, your plan to reveal your roles tomorrow won't work out. And you have a choice to either believe her or not believe her, which I feel like this is such a useless padding type of choice, because why wouldn't he believe her? She's been nothing but on his side this whole time. And she knows about the looping, so she must be able to see the future in some way.
It is a very interesting failure route, though.
Yeah.
Because I did not think about this move either from the survivor's perspective.
Yeah, it rules. But the first choice is called persist in victory, and basically the Badger's response is then perish.
Before we go there. The thing about Haru in this on this night is that she never goes to her Haru personality, just the Badger.
Yeah,
and she's also dressed in the Badger costume, the one with the triangle on her head, and so I think what's happening here is that Haru was badly beat up,
Yeah.
And the badger takes over, so Haru won't have to suffer through the night.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. That Haru might not even be conscious, but the badger is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
And so if you say like, no, I'm not going to believe you, then she's like, fine, die then, idiot. And
And then she heals you.
she heals him by like kissing the back of his neck, and she ties him back up so that it would be believable.
No, she doesn't. In this
doesn't
route.
she?
No, she just heals him, and then in the morning they walk together to the.
Oh, right, because they're going to reveal themselves, so there's no point.
Because they think they won.
Yeah.
At this point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then they go out and they're like, okay, we're going to reveal ourselves. It's time. They're armed, and they show up, and everybody's there. The remaining people, which is just Mako, Mamiya, and Rikako, and Haruaki is like, "Where are the wolves?" He's going to say like, "Where are the wolves, Mako? Come over here!" And just as he's about to do that, Mamiya and Rikako are like, "Mako, where are the wolves? We've been the wolves this whole time. We've fucking
Isn't this so
rules."
great, Mako?
And Mako's like, "Yay! You're the wolves. I'm gonna vote with you."
And the weird thing is, like, that's like Mako's been way more in control than we think. She's just been scared and uncertain. So as soon as she knows who she thinks the wolves are, she's like, "Oh yeah, I can. I've been waiting for you guys. I'm sorry, I've been all on my own, and thanks for coming out now, and we're good."
I never actually thought of it from that perspective. Like, I thought that the badger always knew who the wolves were, and it makes a lot more sense that they don't. And it makes sense that Mako was doing all the things that she was doing if she didn't actually know who the wolves were.
It was very clear from the very first round that when Haru was the badger, and she didn't know who the wolves were until the very end.
Well, I forgot that.
Because if you were playing it as a tabletop game, you would probably want the badger to know who the wolves are. Yeah.
Paula, you have to read much, much slower, okay? That's the lesson that's taken away.
And also, Mako was against Haruaki this entire route. She just was very, very aggressive towards him. So if she knew he was the wolf, she wouldn't be.
Well, that made me think at first that she did know that he was the wolf, and but she didn't buy into it because she was a child, and so she was like, I know. At first I thought she was like, oh, I know he's the wolf, and I'm mad at him about it because of that. But
she's not that sophisticated.
Yeah.
No, she just thought he was actually the investigator.
Yeah, because he's taking such a lead role.
Yeah. The worst situation for him if the badger was actively working against him. So that was why I was inclined to believe that at first in this particular route. So anyway, so then that happens, and they outnumber him, and they also came armed, and Haruaki dies. So if you say to the badger, okay, I believe you, what do you think we should do? She says this and hits him with a branch and knocks him out and drags him back to the prefab. And as she's dragging him, he hears Haru's voice saying, "This is fine," over and over and over again. This is fine. This is fine. This is fine. This is fine. This is fine.
She's just talking about her favorite meme.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh, that's great. So she ties him back up and leaves him there so that they have to come get him in the morning.
Yeah, he wakes up tied up, and he wonders. He doesn't know if the rope just magically tied him back up, or if Haru did. And he noticed that it's tied in a different way. So he like the tower tied him up again, and also beat him up again.
Yeah, didn't heal him.
Or did she just not heal him?
Yeah. So Mamiya has to show up and actually get him, and she drags him into the square. She's surprised that he's still tied up.
Yeah, Mamiya doesn't know what to make of it with him. She was so sure that he would be all right, and he's not.
Yeah. Man, imagine being wrong at this stage, right? But anyway, waiting for them in the dining hall is none other than the badger, Haru in her outfit. And the villagers, the one, I guess, the one person who's still there is they're familiar with this state of Haru. I don't remember how many people.
It's Mochi and Rikako.
This is not. Yeah, no, that's it. That's it. There's not a lot of them, but they're like, yeah, we know this, that she does this, and And Mamiya is finally like losing it that supernatural forces are actually at play. She's like, are you kidding me? Like, this is real. This is really happening. This is really supernatural stuff. And the Badger tells this whole story as if she is a wolf spirit and not the Badger, that she's like that has actually been possessed by a wolf. And Haruaki realizes that her plan is to sacrifice herself. And Haruaki makes up a story that he's the snake, but he lied about Haru being human this whole time because he fell for her, because he was in love with her. And everyone thinks that's very sweet and not weird.
Well, we're dealing with Mochi and Rikako here. They're both.
Yeah, they are. Yeah.
Yeah, actually, yeah, okay.
Yeah, you're right. They're both weirdos. So there you go. So they vote to hang Haru, believing that she is the final wolf, the third one. And they're gonna hang her, and she says before she dies, "We rise up because that is how we live."
Yeah, somebody, what was it? Does Rikiko ask her, like, why do you keep doing this? And she's like, well, rise because this is our life. This is how we stay alive.
Yeah, like as a Yomibito, yeah, as a wolf spirit, yeah.
Yeah, I think we forgot to talk about in the previous night. I think Haruaki came to the conclusion that the god, the Badger, doesn't actually remember the past loops. He's just reading Haruaki's mind. She's just reading Haruaki's mind.
Oh, that happens when he talks to Mochi later. Yeah, he starts to think about it, but he confirms it with Mochi the next day. Yeah. And then at the last moment, Haruaki like calls out to Haru, and Haru, not as the Badger, the real Haru, responds, and she hugs him and gives him a kiss on his ear, which is, I feel like, a very like awkward teenager thing to do. And she runs off the cliff. And Mamiya then reels the rope back in because she's like suspicious that she didn't really die, and there's no body on it, but there's just blood, which I guess means she was decapitated as she fell, which is fucked up. And Haruaki is very sad about this, obviously. He was like, we were going to make it out, and now I'm all alone. Is it even worth it if I'm winning by myself?
Yeah.
He does faint, and he wakes up in a hut with Rikako nearby, and it seems like she has, again, used her powers to heal him. So that happened.
Yeah, there's a bucket of blood next to them. She did something with blood.
Like dirty blood.
Ew.
This chapter's fucked.
Yeah, this chapter is fucked.
And he's like, my story is that I betrayed the humans to protect the wolf I loved. So of course Rikako is still pretty like cold toward him because he like doesn't love her. He loves Haru in this route. And and Mochi's like, see you tomorrow. And
I have two problems with this, says Rikako. Sorry, anyway.
So then of course he's alone as the wolf, and the next person that he kills is Mamiya. As the person, I guess, that would be most difficult for him to overpower.
And she was also behind the thing with Meiko.
Yeah, that was her idea.
It was Yudai's idea that he told her.
Yeah. So the next morning, the remaining four arrive. They all arrive in the village square at the same time. And Haruaki tells Meiko that he's a wolf. She goes over to him. Rikako reacts by giving up and telling them that to come find her when it's her turn to be hanged. And Mochi's like, oh, I see. Like, I'm gonna die. I get it. And he is like, Haruaki and Mochi talk about Haru. And Mochi confirms, he's like, no, the god thing was, I said that doesn't have anything to do with us, that doesn't have, like, he was like, the reason it doesn't have anything to do with the game is because he was like, this god is something that she created. They made the costume together when they were in elementary school, and she's always been able to like actively switch between these two personalities. And Haruaki is kind of like the whole thing an act this whole time? Was she really possessed, or was she just using that persona to say what she wants to say? But it seems like the Badger was actually supernaturally prescient in many cases, and he was like, but was she just lucky by being vague? Certainly the idea of the Badger, the idea of being possessed, is something that Haru, at least initially, started by, like, Haru just made it up to cope.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but it's obviously at least partly supernatural at this point.
It's nice that it kind of entertains that notion of like, well, what if she just made it up? What if?
Haruaki just has coming through all this, like, what if it's all just mind over matter? Yeah. Okay.
Mochi just being like, oh yeah, that healing power she does, like,
Well, that could have been anything. Just band-aids.
What if I only thought I was beaten up with her influence, her hypnotic influence?
Women, am I right? So Mochi challenges Haruaki to a game of rock, paper, scissors to see which one of them dies, and they do rock. This is so stupid. And then they do rock, paper, scissors. Mochi pulls out a finger gun, and Haruaki pulls out a real gun and shoots him. This is stupid.
If I were Mochi, I'd be so mad. It'd be because it's just like, that's the lame. You can't kill me like that. It's not fair. That is awful, you know?
Yeah, I feel like that was almost Mochi, like, telling a joke.
this is how you can tell I have bad taste, because I liked this.
What? How? What's the like?
It's so morbid.
Because he's just a little shit, and he finally was more of a little shit to Mochi than Mochi was.
That's true.
Okay,
That's
true, yeah.
So he shoots Mochi, and Mako is happy that we beat a bad human.
Yeah, Mako is not really disturbed by the shooting and the blood.
No, she's not.
And so I guess in this particular, this killing is okay because he would have been able to do it anyway via votes from Mako, even though they don't technically vote.
Yeah, but he can't kill Rikako.
As long as it was one like person's blood, yeah, or whatever.
So Mako then asks Haruaki, like, are you going to kill me? And Haruaki is like, he's like, in his head, he's like, well, theoretically, yes, but, like, am I really going to be able to do that? Like, maybe I could just kind of, let her do, something else happen. And, but suddenly, he doesn't have that much time to think about it, because suddenly Mako speaks to him with a distorted voice, similar to the Badger's voice. And she says, yet you are still off the mark, villain? And something even scarier than that is behind Haruaki, and he feels it, but he can't bring himself to turn around. And Mako says, how many times do I have to say it? God is a lot worse than you imagine. And Mako starts laughing maniacally, and he's like, what the fuck? What the fuck? What the fuck? But then suddenly she's back to normal, and he's like, what's going on? And he goes to get some water. He goes to wash his face in the dining hall, and then he gets possessed, and his body says, you cannot escape God, at himself back in the mirror. And and it says, like, why not try to come join me? My land may be small, but I will make sure that you are not bored. So I can't tell if this is the Badger or if this is someone else.
It's
It might be the Badger.
It's the
yeah,
Badger.
it's the Badger for sure.
I feel like it's Badger, yeah.
Yeah, because she says, like, my land may be small, but since Haru's dead, she's just, like, in the air now.
Yeah.
And he, like, pushes away, and he's like, and then suddenly Mako is looking out the door, and she says, what is that? And Haruaki goes to the door, looks out into the sky, and there is this impossibly large sort of monster that's sort of like...
It's a giant hands and feet monster.
Yeah, but, like, made of clouds, too.
Well, that's kind of underselling it. I mean,
Well, you describe it then.
it's like a thing of body horror.
Made of hands and feet.
It's an Yggdrasil of hands and faces.
Yeah.
I mean, it's better than a hands and feet monster. Like, what is this, Monty Python? Like, get out of here.
The foot that comes down from the sky, but there's, like, a billion of them. Yeah.
I don't know. Some big guy had, like, a foot or something. Ah!
Gross.
Get out of here. Let's play Dog and Werewolf. I don't know.
You heard about this Dark Souls games? You fight dudes in it.
Oh, geez.
So it's marching toward the sun, which has become eclipsed. So
Yeah, and it's like the size of mountains. It's like really huge.
What the fuck is this?
The one like stupid thing that it does fire off a like big laser off at a city.
Yeah. Yeah.
It sucks. Yeah.
I don't know if that's stupid.
Oh, it's like this is this terrifying monster, and now it's just like a Power Rangers villain.
Now it's a kaiju, yeah.
Yeah, like before it's like this being of unholiness you could never quite imagine. Laser attack.
And it can
All
also
right.
fire lasers, yeah.
Yeah, while we're here, why not?
And the narration from Haruaki here, it goes like, what the fuck? I thought he was playing werewolf. Where were these plot twists coming from?
See, the trick was the monster was always there. He just didn't have the insight before.
Exactly.
Right, yes,
Literally,
yes.
exactly. Oh my
Get
god.
the fucking Kirk hammer, baby. Let's do it.
But this was fucking amazing in my mind, because I was like so on board with this being, you know, we were getting latent, and this was all just no supernatural stuff at all, and then suddenly this huge fuck off Yggdrasil of fuckery comes up.
Well, unless we still want to grasp for straws and say that this is science somehow.
Hallucinogens.
I tried, and I was like, maybe it's a hologram or something. I don't know.
Oh, I didn't try. I'm all on board with this. I'm ready to be disappointed.
I've decided I love this.
See, if you
Yeah,
take
me
a
too.
million monkeys, then you cut the hands and feet off. Eventually, you get a monster.
And this for me at this point, I was like, I don't know about this, you guys. I don't know about this game anymore. Like, what is this game? I thought I knew
This
what
was
this
a
game
turn.
was. Like, it was such a surprise. It was such like a left turn. It was like, what does anything that has been going on so far have to do with this monster?
Yeah, you feel like, okay, this is probably one of the last like loops that we have to go through before we get the true ending. You know, things are gonna start to piece together, and then they add this, and you're like, where is this going?
What does it have to do with the ruling families? Like, what is this? Like, no idea. I was
It's
just,
awesome.
what the fuck is this? So then we get a choice. There's a choice, and one choice is locked by 5 keys, and the other one is not, so we have to choose that one. And who shows up now?
Well, the world turns
the
to black
sheep.
and white, and the hint chip appears.
I hated that.
I loved it. I really loved it.
I was okay with him when he was just the hint sheep and he was in the background, but now he's in the foreground, and I don't think I like the hint sheep anymore.
I was expecting him to become a real character at some point, but it kind of fell flat after this big thing.
I kind of thought he was Mako, or like controlling Mako in some way.
Yeah, I thought it was
So
Mako
to have
as
him
well.
actually show up was weird, yeah. So he's like, "You've done it now, huh?" And the sheep, he's like, "I knew something weird was going on here, and it's because..."
Haruaki freaks out about the sheep more than he does about the monster. So
Yes.
I mean, the monster I can understand, but like a talking sheep, that's too much.
What is this?
Well, I think it's more like I can't even process the monster, but the talking sheep I can process, and that's fucked up. You know,
Yeah.
Keep my mind on the sheep to get my mind off the monster.
Totally
I need
wacky.
I need like an hour to really be afraid of the monster. You know.
So the sheep says that he's like a dream. He's a sheep, so he's in charge of dream. Whatever, Catherine. Okay, and he says that this part of reality has been put inside a dream, and he says that he couldn't directly influence the dream, but he could help through a human.
Yeah, he said that he's a specialist, and that he came in because of this anomaly, and that he was the one controlling Haruaki's memories. So the
Yeah,
dream
he was
is the
helping us
dream.
keep our
Like,
memories.
the dream keeps looping, but Haruaki is the only one that can keep his memories because of what the sheep does.
Yeah, everyone is looping, so that's been confirmed. But only Haruaki remembers it.
Maybe not. Maybe the sheep is helping other people too.
Well, he might not be helping them, but there might be something about the looping inherently that people would kind of remember, because this is a supernatural phenomenon.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And we'll explain a lot of like the bleed over sometimes and people feeling like someone's familiar to them or something, you know, that kind of,
Yeah.
even if you're
Yeah.
not getting specific memories from a sheep, there's some memories are bleeding through.
Right.
But the sheep doesn't know how this happened or like why it happened. He doesn't know why this part of reality was put into a dream. And he says also that he doesn't know Mako.
Yeah. And he says that whoever is controlling the dream is much more powerful than him, but he's more has more experience, so that's why he can do it without having the actual like mastermind, the one who's controlling the dream, notice him.
Find
notice
out,
that he's
yeah.
there.
So there's a mastermind, folks, our favorite word.
Mm-hmm.
And he says the anomaly reached the ending it desired, the demise of this country. And I feel like that was I feel like that should have been translated as the destruction of the world and not the demise of this country.
Well, you don't want to set your sights too high.
Yeah, you start with the country and then you move on.
So I think in Japanese, and I think it specifically talks about the monster just wants to destroy Japan. That's all the monster wants to do.
Why?
So, like, if we just leave it alone, then it'll be fine.
Yeah.
The monster who hated anime a lot.
Yeah. 5-6 of visual novel book club will be okay.
So the sheep is like at first the dream was just like looping forever, and then he's like, but then like an outsider joined and things started to get weird, like that. So Haruaki has been affecting the loop with his actions, and he has so many questions, but the sheep's like, look, we're out of time, time's up, and he's like, I'm a dream wielder.
Yeah, the ship says that the dream is ending now. That's the final loop. But because he's very skillful, he can actually take Haruaki back one time.
But it's gonna hurt, he says. He's like, brace yourself, this is gonna hurt.
Yeah. And he tells him, don't come back to this point. I mean, loop as much as you want, but don't come back here, because if you come back here, then I can't do anything anymore.
Mm-hmm. And this was so funny to me because I thought that there was going to be like a magical element to it, and the sheep just kills him.
Well, he kills him whimsically.
He kills him whimsically. The end.
Yep.
Credits roll.
That was bad. Anyway.
No.
I like the sheep, and I think you'll grow to like him too when you see more of him.
Oh boy.
At the end, it says "Raising Group Game Overlord."
Bunch of jerks.
Oh god. So, do we want to talk about the hint sheep that comes at this ending?
Yeah, might as well.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, you gotta watch the hint sheep. Are you kidding? How could you not after all this?
I mean, yeah, we haven't seen him in so long.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm okay with him getting pushed back into the background where he belongs. I'm
Yeah.
okay with him there.
And there's also the thing where when the hint sheep first comes up in the game, Araki says that this feels familiar to him, because, and then he realizes that it's familiar because it feels like what happens every time that he dies in loops.
Yeah.
Which ties into the hint sheep like nicely.
Yeah. So the hint sheep that's really been happening. Like the hint sheep hasn't been talking to us directly, the player. He's really been talking to Haruaki as well, in a way.
Well,
He's saying you got the keys and the right endings, and
Yeah.
Yeah, the actual hint sheep that gives you like game terms, like video game terms.
Maybe that's why Haruaki got desensitized so quickly, because he was hearing it explained to him like a video game.
yeah, he gets told to save his game frequently and all.
Right.
Yeah.
He talks about the plot chart.
Yeah. So this hint sheep, after this ending, he acknowledges that he's the same sheep. He's the same guy, different art style, same guy. And he says, we need to find the 5 keys necessary to open the final door, the 5 keys that we saw, that last choice there right at the end. And the hint sheep very helpfully tells you exactly where those are.
Where the first one is at this point.
Yeah, so he starts by he suggests that the first one we go try to find is at 2 dense mist. Cue her objective. which is in the first route, very first route, when Chiemi is like drinking with us and asks Haraki, like, why do you think I'm helping you?
The sheep actually acknowledges it as the stupid Chiemi quiz.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. So that's it for this time. Next time we're gonna find those 5 keys and unlock that final door.
Yeah. Well, let's get the 5 keys and end at the point where we can unlock the final door, and let's leave the actually unlocking to the final episode.
Is that really what we're doing, by the way? Or, like, I mean, is everyone going to read ahead and just finish it if they already haven't?
I never read ahead.
I will stick to the plan.
Yeah, it would be nice if some of us like don't know what the end of the game.
I will resist the temptation.
If you haven't already done with it, by this point, I suggest you stick it out for 2 more weeks.
Hold off, everybody.
Yeah. And we'll probably need another episode after that for some of the extra stuff after the game.
All 5 keys is very long. It's a lot.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot, but it's also a lot of info dumps. Nothing really happens, but you can just get a lot of information.
Yeah, we don't have to go into it in detail. Yeah, for sure.
Mm.
But there's a lot of cool stuff. Time to jump back through all the previous loops and find some key information. Butterfly effect style.
Wink, wink.
Oh, wait, who is the spider this loop?
It was Rikako.
Yeah.
Really?
Oh,
Damn, I just lost a bet.
protect Yoshitsugu when he gets
She's
killed.
bad at it, I guess.
She's bad at it.
No, she thinks Haruaki's the snake. She's protecting him.
Yeah, after you finish the game, you can actually go back and see what everyone was thinking. And you learn all that stuff, why people did what they did, to very fine detail. So it's kind of neat that way.
Yeah. And so yeah, this is absolutely bananas. I could never have in a million years guessed that this is the direction this game was going to go. What on earth does this monster have to do with anything that's been going on so far?
Any speculation from people who didn't finish the game yet?
I don't know. To be honest with you, like it's I don't know. I don't really know how to resolve any of it.
No, I had no idea at this point. I had no idea. I was like, I don't know if I'm even gonna like this game.
I'm gonna guess that it's part of some kind of ritual, and the ritual is complete when, I guess, everyone in the village dies or whatever. And then at some point, someone saw that and was like, well, fuck that. I'm just gonna put this area into a time bubble and have it loop over and over.
Oh, yeah, okay. How about that? Yeah, if, well, I guess it is something like the world's going to end if the game goes a certain way and this monster takes over, and the loop is meant to do that, but Haruaki messes it up by, like, being there, maybe. You know?
Yeah, like, imagine that in, like, when they created the time bubble, we'll call it, they somehow knew, okay, with these current players, no matter how the roles go, the wolves can't win, or the wolves do win, or something happens that it keeps the monster from coming to life. And then Haruaki comes in and is like, well, now we don't know what happens.
The thing that really threw me at this point is the way the sheep categorize, like the sheep being the good guy, like and categorizing the fact that a loop is happening, like the fact that we're in the dream world, as a bad thing. Because up until this point, I had been under the impression that the looping was like a protective thing that was supposed to be like, well, once you solve it so that it goes the way it's supposed to go and the looping will stop and everyone will be safe. The idea of the sheep being like, no, this is a bad thing, actually, that this is happening, is like wild. It totally recontextualizes what's been going on.
Didn't the sheep also say that he came to the loop because Haruaki was there and it was setting off his anomaly alarms?
Yeah, and that like Haruaki wasn't supposed to be there, like, yeah.
Right, so
weird.
the sheep that wasn't even there giving people their memories until Haruaki came up.
The other thing that recontextualized this for me was the sheep calling this a dream, and so like now I'm wondering like what was real, was the monster even real? So I did read ahead, but my theory at that point was just like, okay, this is the dream of the leader of the village, maybe, like this is his ideal thing where all the Yasumizu residents are fighting each other and playing under his thumb.
Yeah, whose dream could it be?
And it almost felt to me like the monster reveal was so like bizarre and so out of left field that I felt like going forward, I'm almost like, is there just going to be information that I had no way of knowing? Like, is this going to resolve? Like, there's just it's not a mystery. It's not a whodunit. It's just like we're gonna get a whole bunch of stuff at the end that's gonna explain this, but it's not anything you could figure out based on what we currently know.
So
That's what I was worried about too.
as I talked about before, there are a couple of things here that if you don't speak Japanese, then you can figure out. And if you do, and you're good at riddles, and you take the time to think about it, then you can figure some stuff out. And there are definitely hints about what's going on that can lead you on the right path if you have enough like real world information, real world knowledge about like some stuff in Japanese mythology and stuff like that. And they've been hinting about it. They definitely have, but I feel like the average reader in English can't really know what's going on here.
When we get to that point in the discussion, then you'll have to go over all of the hints that we did not understand in English.
Yeah, I feel like there's just a lot of like mythology and religion that is just will go completely over our heads.
Yeah, I think like a Japanese reader who knows his mythology, but really knows his mythology like better than what they just know from what they learn at school, like can guess some of what's going on here based on the hints. But
is the monster a yokai? Or is that too much information? I don't think any of us here are versed enough.
Yeah, yokai aren't usually that big.
Let me tell you about a game called Neo and Neo 2. See,
They are pretty big in Neo compared to a person.
Right. No, I mean, No, I'm just saying, there's imagination. There's different, Look, the Gasha Dekoro can get really big. Maybe. I don't know.
Maybe it's several yokai stacked on top of each other.
Maybe it's just big hands and feet. How's that?
Yeah.
It's the Grimace monster, okay?
Ew.
Eldritch Grimace. That's what we're wearing.
So, next time, we'll get all 5 keys and we will learn a lot more about what is going on. Thank God, because it's finally answer some questions instead of ask them, shall we?
Yeah, prepare for a lot of info dumps, like long info dumps.
Yeah, which is cool. But yeah, I would say when we summarize it, we probably won't summarize. We'll just be like, and this happened, and not really talk about it. But there's a lot of cool stuff for sure.
Cool. All right. We'll see. Well, until next time. Ooh!
You varmint!